Okay, so we're gonna modify the model a little bit, and we're gonna add indexes so that we can see how that is done and take a look at some of the statistics or data that we can get from this from using these indexes. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to add a unique um, property to the username, because usernames are going to be unique across the collection. We can use this unique equals true setting parameter so that MongoDB knows that only one person with that username can exist. And the same thing with the email. Like, we shouldn't have two users with the same email. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bio. So it's basically like a little string description of what, the user does or his interests and things like that. And I'm going to call this DB field V. And I'm going to put a max length to it as well of 50. And I'm also going to that's it. So here I'm going to add the indexes, and the way to do that, you use this meta property of the class, and you just pass indexes. And in this case, I want to index by the username, because I'll probably be looking up usernames pretty often. I'm gonna create another index. So this is a list. As you can see, you can list the fields in there. And I'm gonna create a third index. This time it's minus created. That means that the sort order should be reversed. So the most recent created persons first, and then the oldest to the bottom of that index. And why is that? Because I'm gonna figure. I think I'm gonna be kind of getting a page where it says the newest members of things like that, most recent joined members. Usually there's some of that usage, and you can add indexes afterwards, but you should think, if I'm going to search for somebody in this field in some sort, then it's good to have indexes. If you search, for example, let's say we don't have first name and last name indexed here. If I search MongoDB and I say, oh, give me the users whose name is Jorge and last name is Escobar, I will get the results. But the problem is that instead of searching through the index or using an index, which is like we said in that explanation earlier, it's a very narrow table. It's just going to go into the actual table and look through the whole table and find all the users that have the first name Jorge and the last name Escobar. And as you can imagine, if you have thousands or millions of records, that's going to take some time. So if you have that, if you think you're going to be searching for, give me the user whose first name is blah and last name is blah, then you should definitely create an index on it. So one thing I want to show you guys is how easy it is to just add or modify the fields. And I'm not doing any migrations or anything. It just works. It's just MongoDB is fine with it, and there's no problems with it. I'm getting an invalid syntax here. DB field equals B. Max length is 50. I don't see that invalid syntax, but we'll see. We'll see if we get any errors. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna basically do some testing and see how these indexes work. But since I saved this model, the changes are not necessarily reflected on MongoDB yet, because we haven't done any operations on the database yet. So if I go, let me open a new terminal. I'm actually going to be using this often, so I'll just have a Mongo terminal here open. So if I connect to the Flask book and do a db user find, I see that those fields are not there. And there's probably no indexes still in there. If I do, the way you see the indexes is you do get indexes. And again, this is the MongoDB shell. This is not the Python shell. And see, I only getting the ID index, which is the one that's by default always MongoDB will create for you. So in order for us to kick those changes up, we're gonna create a new user, and this time with a Python shell. And so let's do from user models import star, and then I'm gonna do user equals user, where username equals, let's say, John, and password equals test, and then email is John at example.com, and first name is John and last name is Smith. Okay. Oh, and wait, we have a new field. If you remember, we just changed this. We can do bio. So let's do bio equals, let's say I am a Flask fanatic. That's the guy's bio. So now we do user save, and if we do user ID, I get the user ID. There's a handy function that you guys can use, which is toJSON, and it'll display all the basically the data of that user in JSON format. And see how I have bio there? There's a bio.